Hey, scrappy people, it's Tracy Reed here today, coming at you with a 9 by 12 stash busting layout. And I had this paper sitting in my stash. I'm not sure what I used it for, but it had this slash cut down the side of it, and I thought it would be perfect to make a 9 by 12 layout. So what I'm doing is I just put it down on blue solid paper from one of my old Simple Stories collections, and then I had this strip of striped paper from the other side of that geotag paper that I want to incorporate as well. So I'm going to put this down just right along the edge here, and this is going to be the foundation for building my entire cluster. And I'm actually going to build the cluster separate from the page for a while I make it all like work out as far as the layering goes. So this is a huge stash busting layout. Some of these embellishments, or these papers and embellishments, are super old, and they're from a bunch of different lines. Like that library tag is from actually a baby themed line that I picked up a few years ago. I have these tags that I pulled out of my stash. I'm going to be using the Heidi Swap line from a few years ago. I don't remember what it was called, but it has like all the wolves and stuff in it. And so I'm just went into my stash and pulled out things that matched the theme, but also the color scheme of that geotag paper. And luckily, the geotag paper had a lot of colors going on to pull from, so it worked out well. I really wanted to use this hot air balloon little card that I have pulled in here as well. Eventually, I put it down, but eventually I'm going to take it off of this layout because it just doesn't quite match stylistically with the rest of the spread with the rest of the page once I start getting more embellishments down. So it was cute and it worked, but it just didn't quite work with the way that it turns out in the end. There's that wolf. So this is actually what made me take it off. The wolf and the hot air balloon just did not work well together stylistically. So we're just going to pull it off and, well, not yet, but eventually we'll just pull it off and work something else in over there, and you'll see what that ends up being. I had these Pink Fresh Studio fabric tags sitting in my stash too. And this one says explore, and then I'm going to have another one up at the other corner. I'm not sure what it says. We'll find out together. This wolf thing says part of the pack, and that worked out well with the theme of this layout because the journaling is going to be about how happy I am that one of the hobbies of Joe's friend group is taking photos around town. Whenever they go out and they explore downtown, they end up taking some fun photos. One of his friends is obviously experimenting with photography, and so bonus, I get some really cool photos that I didn't take of my kid, and I just really appreciate that he has these photos because one of my treasures from my childhood are all of the photos I took in high school. I actually have a high school scrapbook that I created back then, and they just make me so happy. So I'm so happy that he's going to have them as well. So I'm going to start sticking this down where I want it to be on the page. I know where I want to put my title, which is diagonally along the edge of the geotag paper. So I'm avoiding going over the edge, and you can see I'm going to start putting down the letters now and seeing that they fit. These are Cocoa Daisy adhesive cardstock letters that match the theme, and there goes that hot air balloon, and instead I'm going to put the camera, which fits better thematically and also fits better stylistically with that wolf. So I'm going to add this frame back in there because I'm not going to take that off, but I needed to move it around, make sure everything sort of fits together. This camera is more horizontal than the hot air balloon was, so I had to offset that a little bit with the frame. I'm still going to try and work in this hot air balloon, but no, it's just not going to happen. Could have maybe worked up there away from the wolf, but I just didn't love the way that they worked together. I have these stars from the same collection that wolf came from. They're just kind of sitting with the collection, so I want to make sure I use those. Like, the whole point of my stash busting layouts is to get this stuff off of my table and use it into albums and enjoying it that way rather than keeping it in my stash or eventually purging it from my stash. So there we go. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move that around town more to the left eventually. But the first thing I'm going to do before that is add in my journaling. And then once I add in the journaling, I realize that everything's sort of off-centered and it doesn't work out very well. So that's when I'm going to move this. I'm going to add this little arrow that says currently, and then one down here to match that says let's go. The whole point of this spread is layers. I wanted all of the layers going on. And I really, really love how it came out. I need to take some time before I start my layouts and plan them out the way that I did this one. It always ends up with a better product. So I added in my journaling, and I didn't love that that corner up there was empty. So I'm going to take the scraps that I have left from both of these papers, and I'm going to put it up here in this corner to the best of my ability. This striped one was a little bit short, unfortunately, but I make it work in a way that looks like maybe it is almost long enough. Like you don't quite notice that it's too short the way that this worked out. So that works for me. I wish it was a little bit longer, but you make do. But that closes up that space up there at the top, which makes me happy because it was kind of annoying me. And now I'm going to move the letters to the left down that diagonal a bit so that it's a little bit more centered. I'm going to add in some decorative stapling to fill in the blanks there. Hey, look, now it looks like I did it on purpose. I also decided that that tag needed to be torn at the bottom because it was too long and it was blocking too much space. So I'm going to do that in a minute, but I wanted to add in this taller than the trees because my kid is huge. My kid is huge. It says I walked into the woods and came out taller than the trees, I think, but I thought that a picture of Joe with this sentiment was perfection. So I'm just going to stick that up there and hide it. Make it part of the cluster. So, okay, I'm going to rip this tag and take it apart, undo that staple that I added in so that it doesn't ruin that tag. Or not the tag, but the wolf word art. There we go, that's better. And now the last thing I'm going to do is add in some of this orange twine. I chose orange because there's orange in the paper, but there's not orange really in the embellishments that I chose, so I thought it was a great contrast for this cluster. I'm going to move this tag down now so that it doesn't block the around in the around town because I did move those letters to the left, so everything needs to sort of be adjusted. But then I think I call it good. I think we're good with this layout. It's one of my favorites this year. I love all of the clustering. I love that I used up so much of my stash. So if you enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. I would love to have you. If you don't already, you can follow me over on Instagram. I'm at Tracy M. Reed. I'd love to see you over there as well. And I will see you next time. Thank you.